This is CBN News Watch.
It is Wednesday, October 14th. I'm Efrem Graham. Thank you so much for joining us. Ahead today, Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett facing repeated questions from Democratic senators and dealing with subjects like sexual discrimination, racism, and abortion for 11 hours. Coronavirus cases on the rise again, with 34 states reporting increases and many states setting new records. Many Americans have had enough of the COVID lockdowns and restrictions and violent protests in major cities, so they're packing up and moving out. We're going to show you where they're going. And well-known Christian leader now recovered from his COVID-19 diagnosis, and he is thanking those who prayed for him. We've got all those stories and more ahead in this edition of CBN News Watch. I want to begin this half hour with Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett facing more questions from senators again today in the third day of her confirmation hearings. This comes after she faced multiple attacks from Democrats in a long session Tuesday on Obamacare, gay rights, and abortion. But Barrett's supporters say she kept her cool throughout the entire day. Paul Strand brings us the story now. He's reporting from Washington.
Amy Coney Barrett may be opposed to abortion personally, but that doesn't mean she's an automatic vote against it on the Supreme Court.
Judges can't just wake up one day and say, I have an agenda, I like guns, I hate guns, I like abortion, I hate abortion, and walk in like a royal queen and impose, their will on the world. You have to wait for cases and controversies, which is the language of the Constitution, to wind their way through the process.
But Senator Kamala Harris insisted Roe v. Wade hangs in the balance because Barrett's such a danger to it.
Poses a threat to safe and legal abortion in our country.
Barrett insisted she'll stick to her pledge to be impartial.
Are you lying?
I'm not lying.
Are you going to take that oath and abide by it?
Yes, sir.
Will you ever break that oath?
I will not break that oath.
I mean, just because you happen to be pro-life or pro-choice in your personal beliefs should not be disqualifying in terms of being a judge any more than if you happen to like Obamacare or don't like Obamacare should have any bearing on whether or not you can determine whether the law itself is constitutional.
Asked if she'd rule like her mentor, Antonin Scalia, to roll back gay rights, she said that's not to be assumed.
I have never discriminated on the basis of sexual preference and would not ever discriminate on the basis of sexual preference. Like racism, I think discrimination is abhorrent.
One thing that seems to really bother Democrats is they feel the conservative Amy Coney Barrett is the direct opposite of the woman she'll replace, the most liberal of Supreme Court justices, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And Barrett added insult to injury by defending her refusal to say how she'd rule on cases by quoting Ginsburg.
Justice Ginsburg, with her characteristic pithiness, used this to describe how a nominee should comport herself at a hearing. No hints, no previews, no forecasts.
Legal analyst John Hsu.
No judicial nominee is allowed to answer a hypothetical about any kind of case that could conceivably appear before the particular court for whom that nominee is being nominated.
One moment while discussing the George Floyd killing provided an intimate look into Barrett's home life.
My 17-year-old daughter, Vivian, who's adopted from Haiti, all of this was erupting. It was very difficult for her. We wept together. And for Vivian, to understand that there would be a risk to her brother or the son she might have one day of that kind of brutality has been an ongoing conversation. It's a difficult one for us, like it is for Americans all over the country.
A light moment. Barrett illustrated she was discussing dozens of cases over 11 hours without even one note of backup.
Most of us have multiple notebooks and notes and books and things like that in front of us. Can you hold up what you've been referring to in answering our questions? Is there anything on it?
That letterhead that says United States Senate.
Committee members get one more round of questions, then witnesses on Thursday when Chairman Lindsey Graham says he will set a vote. Paul Strand, CBN News, Capitol Hill.
And CBN News is carrying the Barrett confirmation hearings in their entirety. You can watch our live coverage beginning at 9 a.m. every day through Thursday across all CBN News platforms. And when you're on the go, be sure that you've downloaded the CBN News app so you don't miss it. President Trump was praising Barrett on the campaign trail as he and Democratic nominee Joe Biden hit key battleground states with just 3 weeks to go before the election. In Pennsylvania, the president blasting Biden for moving far to the left.
This is the most important election in the history of our country. Biden has made a corrupt bargain in exchange for his party's nomination. He has handed control to the socialists and Marxists and left-wing extremists like his vice presidential candidate. That's another great one, isn't it?
The president went on to talk about the coronavirus, saying vaccines and therapeutics are coming soon. Meanwhile, Biden was again criticizing the president's handling of the coronavirus pandemic as he courted senior citizens in Florida.
The fact that he's never been focused on what matters. He's never been focused on you. His handling of this pandemic has been erratic, just like his presidency has been. And it has prevented Florida seniors and people all across the country from getting the relief that they need.
This is Biden's third visit to Florida in a month. As many experts predicted, COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations are on the rise again, and that's happening in all but 7 states. Our Charlene Aaron is following this story for us.
Across the country, coronavirus cases are on the rise, sparking concerns a second wave is on the horizon as the cold weather season approaches. 34 states now reporting increases, more than 20 states setting records for new coronavirus infections, some on multiple days.
These are true increases largely related to a loosening of people's aggressive behavior, which is understandable with quarantine and pandemic fatigue.
Connecticut seeing its highest level of infection since June. The virus especially rampant in Midwestern states. In Michigan, officials warn the state may be seeing a second wave. In Oklahoma City, all ICU beds filled. And in Wisconsin, a field hospital is being set up to handle rising cases, prepping for as many as 550 patients. The state reporting more than 3,000 new cases Tuesday, the second record-setting day in less than a week. Dr. Anthony Fauci issuing a dire warning.
We're in a bad place now. We've got to turn this around.
More bad news as a leading vaccine and an antibody treatment have been put on hold. Tuesday, a safety issue led officials to pause a COVID-19 antibody therapy being developed by Eli Lilly. Monday, Johnson & Johnson halted its phase 3 vaccine trial after a participant became unexplainably ill.
The very fact that the trial has been paused and the data are being reviewed is a very good thing. It shows you that the system that we have in place to monitor the safety of the vaccines and the rigorous conduct of the trial is in place and it's working.
Despite the surges, the World Health Organization is warning against going back into lockdowns to control the virus.
But what we want to try and avoid are these massive lockdowns that are so punishing to communities, to society, and to everything else.
Dr. Deborah Birx, head of the coronavirus task force, is calling on Americans to take precautions against new surges this fall, particularly as families plan for the holidays.
This virus can spread among families and friends if you take your mask off and you're primarily indoors.
Meanwhile, President Trump is urging Congress to pass another round of coronavirus stimulus aid, tweeting, "Stimulus, go big or go home." Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is pledging a vote on smaller-scale legislation next week. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Coming up, many Americans are fed up by the coronavirus lockdowns and restrictions and the frequent violence in big cities, so they're getting out. We're going to show you where they're going when we come back.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
And ministering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to cbnnewschannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News. Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Get the top political news and analysis from Washington on Faith Nation, tonight at 6 Eastern, only on the CBN News Channel.
Frustrated by coronavirus restrictions and frightened by the violence in many major cities, many Americans are packing up and abandoning the cities they love for a safer, less expensive life in smaller towns and cities. CBN senior Washington correspondent Tara Mergen brings us the story.
Frustrated by coronavirus restrictions and frightened by the violence popping up in so many U.S. cities, many Americans are abandoning the cities they love for a life they hope is simpler and safer.
Near the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains sits Orange, Virginia. Population about 4,000. A place where a little girl can talk to her pet tortoise in the sunshine.
Wants to walk around.
Or play on a tree swing with her baby brother.
We really don't have any intentions to move back.
A far cry from the life the Nielsen family loved, but suddenly feared 75 miles away in the nation's capital.
It was terrifying because there were riots going on up in D.C., into Arlington, and then there were also riots happening down in Manassas, so we were sandwiched right in between.
Word that a controversial curriculum was coming to their public school this fall was the last straw. A month ago, Mark and Vanessa closed the door on D.C. for good.
My wife and I, we hold to conservative values and we value faith in our home.
The Nielsens joining what's seen as a growing urban exodus. After years of migration into U.S. cities, experts see the trend reversing itself. If riots, a pandemic, or the cost of living aren't pushing some to leave, more out-of-business signs are going up by the day. New York, L.A., and Chicago were among those seeing population decline even before COVID hit. According to Pew Research, 1 in 5 people nationwide has relocated in recent months or know someone who has. Many are now able to work from home.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about timeline.
The phone calls keep coming into Abby Platt's Northern Virginia office.
They'll tell me right out of the gate, I'm working remotely. There's nothing keeping me in the area that they may not have ever considered leaving proximity to an office, where now they will go 30, 40, 50 miles out.
Mark Hamrick calls it a perfect storm.
Those areas are kind of now where the modern land rush is on, and that's why in some of those communities, particularly middle-sized communities and suburban areas, you'll have, bidding battles for homes, in part because there's a low inventory.
Some analysts believe taxes will spike even more to compensate for the loss of businesses. Open Table predicts 25% of restaurants could go under because of the pandemic. As more people seek a better quality of life elsewhere, experts say those left behind may end up living in a city they no longer recognize.
The federal officers leaving.
As big city mayors and leaders across the country sound the alarm, the future of life in our most dense cities seems unclear. But the Nielsen see the ability to roll up their sleeves and spread their wings as the new paradise.
There's a lot of access to certain things in the city, but I found that everything that I really need is out here, and I just feel a lot more relaxed out here.
It's too early to know how many people will trade big city life for small town America, but analysts do agree it could be years before we know the full impact on urban areas and the smaller communities so many are now calling home. In Orange, Virginia, I'm Tara Mergener, CBN News.
Still ahead, it's a miracle story that connects two families for life, and it's now coming to a theater near you. We've got an exclusive preview of the faith-filled romantic drama Two Hearts, and it's coming up here on CBN Newswatch in just a matter of minutes. Stay with us.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5 Wednesday night at 9:30.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Bacardi, it's a familiar name and a familiar brand, but now you can witness the miraculous story of one member of that famous family on the big screen in a film filled with romance and drama. It follows the true story of two couples in very different decades of their lives, but they're united by a life-saving gift that sets them on an incredible journey to love and purpose. It's called Two Hearts, and Studio 5 has this first look.
I'll admit it. A lot of us go through life without a purpose.
Have you ever thought about what you want to do with your life?
I like living in this moment here with you. But the truth is, we're all just one connection away from something incredible.
Is there anything I can do for you?
You could hold my hand.
You don't waste time, do you?
For both of you, I'll begin with just your initial thoughts on the fact that you are telling a true story and portraying characters who can actually watch this film play out.
Well, yeah, it's a great opportunity, man. I mean, it's such a great story, right? You know, in reading the script, it's inspiring. You investigate a little bit about the family, and it's certainly an amazing story. All the pieces of the film were put together so well, and the team was so supportive and delightful to work with. The one thing that we do learn in the film is the love he had for Leslie and the passion towards life that he had as well. It's a beautiful thing to see what love can do.
And Radha, for you, what was it like being Leslie?
I already loved her life story. She just seemed like a great person from reading the script. And then meeting her in person, she's got a real kind of like force. She's a real powerful character. What was great about her is that she was like this kind of almost like Cinderella girl. She kind of had this, came from one place, went to another and met Prince Charming and, you know, had this whole kind of amazing experience. You know a lot about me now. Tell me some more about you.
More than that, I love the ocean and I find you incredibly beautiful.
Yes, more.
So I work with my family in the rum business, as you know.
Family is very important to me, too.
Is it?
I want to have a huge family. I want to have dozens and dozens of babies.
Leslie, we just met. You're talking about our babies of it.
So it's really nice just seeing two people fall in love and seeing how much that is a shared experience that we have as humans, seeing it happening twice in the same story.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Excuse me. Are you in this class also?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nope. I was.
Tell me about just the power of this love story between these two. I mean, the connection is amazing. I think when he's giving up, she's pushing him.
What's really beautiful about the portrait of their love story is that it starts in their kind of youth, you know, when they're younger, and then you see it carry over into the later part of their life. And you see sort of the resonance of loving someone consistently for so long. You know, the challenge that he personally had to kind of commit to with what he decided to do was very scary. And you need courage. You really kind of need someone behind you to even consider that.
Any hopes of what you want people to take away from this story?
Yeah, like what I naturally took from it was, I mean, you have to consider also the time that we're facing right now, everybody. You know, the whole world is a community. It's an amazing thing, man. Like if we would have known that we were going to be living this back when we were shooting the film, firstly, I wouldn't have believed you. Like it's surreal what we're going through right now. It's just so timely. What I take away is the importance of the value of life. You know, it's something that we take for granted, you know, every day. And it's not until we're faced with adversity or you know, something that like what's happening right now.
It's the power of love. You see these two love stories. You see people falling in love. You see what that does to them. And you see how it sustains them. But also that things that are really, that appear to be very difficult and impossible to kind of overcome can also happen. And with time, will make sense.
I believe the connections are everywhere. The kindness of a stranger, the first heartbeat of a baby, the love of your family.
No matter what happens, there's always a reason.
And I believe each one of us has a purpose, even if we can't see it.
Now, you can catch Two Hearts in theaters this weekend, and you can get more uplifting entertainment stories like that on Studio 5 tonight. We're sitting down with recording artist Natalie Grant and visiting the kitchen of the singing chef, Kenny Miner. We've got those stories and more on Studio 5 on the CBN News Channel. It begins at 9:30 this evening, Eastern Standard Time. Coming up, a famous pastor and Christian leader heading back to the pulpit after being diagnosed with COVID-19, and he credits the power of prayer. We're going to hear his message when we come back. Stay with us.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
You know, I think as a father, it's my job, you know, to lead. Just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Orphans Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphans Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
Young people, millennials, are flocking to church.
It's not an exaggeration to say that we love to meet them and that we love to know their stories.
Check out the CBN News Daily Rundown podcast each weekday with me, Caitlin Burke. Click on the show tab at cbnnews.com where you can listen and subscribe.
Welcome back to CBN News Watch. Nearly 2 weeks after coming down with COVID-19, Harvest Christian Fellowship Senior Pastor Greg Laurie has announced he'll be returning to the pulpit Sunday. In a video message posted to Facebook late Friday, the 67-year-old pastor said he has completed 10 days of quarantine, and he thanked those who prayed for and reached out to him.
So many of you have taken the time to pray for me and let me know you're praying for me, so I'm happy to report that I'm doing great and I feel great. The fact of the matter is, my symptoms were never that bad. Thank God for that. I know it isn't that way for everyone, but it was for me. And I attribute that to so many people praying. And I also appreciate your very encouraging comments on my social media pages.
The well-known evangelical leader did not let his time in isolation stop him from sharing the gospel. He actually stayed active on social media and involved in his Sunday service at his church. Harvest Christian Fellowship has locations in Riverside and Irvine, California, as well as Maui, Hawaii. You can see his entire message at cbnnews.com. Never underestimate the power of prayer. Speaking of that, it is time now for your Wednesday word. And today's word is this: miracle. Want to remind you, no matter what you're facing, you need to remember this: God is good, and He is the God of miracles. There is no problem too great, and there is no concern too small. You are God's creation, and you are a walking, breathing, living miracle. But you're not the first, and you certainly won't be the last. I encourage you to expect a miracle today. And then as you expect, watch, wait, and see, won't God deliver? You are a miracle, and miracles are still happening today. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN News Watch. I want to remind you, you can always find more of our programs on the CBN News channel at any time. You can also find them online at cbnnews.com. We'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us at the address right there at the bottom of your screen, newswatch@cbn.com. You can, of course, also reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'd love to hear from you. Hope you'll join us again right here next time. Make this a wonderful Wednesday. We'll see you right back here, same time tomorrow. Goodbye. God bless.